When it comes to affordable Snapdragon 8 Elite flagships, you can't beat this right here, which is the Redmi K80 Pro. It has a 6.67-inch screen that is an AMOLED 120Hz. It's got a metal frame to it, very good build quality, 3 cameras on the rear, 2 are 50 megapixel, and one is 32, 20 megapixel front-facing camera, and it is only selling for around about 500 to 550 euros. So it is the most affordable flagship. So I got this here from GizTop, and very good price here for such a spec on off. I think it's fantastic from Xiaomi. Hopefully we see this as a global model as a Poco phone. I'm sure that's going to happen. So we get our special red colored cable here for the 120 watts, Type A to Type C. Here is the charger. So it's a gun charger and nice and small and compact there. So good, decent size. And of course a two-pronged style because this is a Chinese model. If we do get a European version of this rebranded as Poco, then of course you have the European charger or UK charger options, SIM tray tool, and they do give us a case, which is really good to see with so many brands, of course, just ditching cases, not even bothering. So there's a little bit of paperwork there. Now I won't go over that because it is all in Chinese. But you can see it's a grey TPU case and fits the phone perfectly, of course, coming from Xiaomi. So that's what we get included with the K80 Pro. So let's take a look at the build. It is very nice. I think for the price point, excellent. Now, our SIM tray, just wanted to show you, takes 2 nano SIMs, of course, no micro SD card support. That is long gone with their flagships. Type-C port, I've been testing with my HDMI to Type-C cable. No video out for some reason, and then I used a hub that I've got that goes Type-C to HDMI, still didn't work. Works with my other phones, so it looks like there's definitely no video out support with this, which is a little disappointing. So I guess some corners were cut here with the Snapdragon 8 Elite phone. Loudspeaker right here, loudspeaker in the earpiece, and I'll just show you that we've got an ultrasonic fingerprint reader. Now I have found that it tends to work very good, but sometimes there seems to be a bit of a bug where it falls asleep or something, and it didn't work for me. And I had to tap the power button, then it worked fine. But now when I touch it, you see this is instant. It's very good. So there's just that minor little bug there, which I'm sure a firmware update is going to fix this. So I'll just do that one more time. I mean, ultrasonic, it is the best when it comes to your fingerprint readers. So camera at the front, they've gone with that 20 megapixel sensor that we've seen them use before. So they're using up parts, obviously from their parts bin or something. No 4K from that front-facing camera, just 1080p 30 or 60. I'll show you later with the video samples. Bezels look good. It's a flat screen, and it's very fast. It's really good here. And, of course, this is OLED, 120 Hz, and it's a great looking display. It was also Quad HD, so very good resolution, 1440 by 3200 pixels there, and it gives us 526 ppi, so really sharp, really nice screen, and very smooth, 120 Hz Dolby Vision support, HDR10+. I'll show you a little bit more about that screen later on there. So frame here, you'll see the buttons on the side made out of metal, very good feel to them, in the right position. So tapping that, it's really where you need it, so that's good, just like the fingerprint reader. Could be a little bit higher maybe, but some brands like Vivo sometimes put that right down there, which has not happened here. So we've got antenna lines on the side, up the top. Oh, hang on, what else is missing? IR transmitter, so it's starting to add up. No 4K video here for the front-facing camera, no IR, and no micro SD, no 3.5mm, of course. That's gone, and no video out. So yes, they have definitely cut some corners here. Now the weight of the phone, it isn't bad, and it's just over 200. So it's 212 grams, and the thickness, 8.4 millimeters. Again, good. It's all pretty standard there. There's nothing like it's not overly heavy or it should be lighter. No, it feels decent. Very solid, quality feeling phone in hand. Now we have this marble-like finish here, but it's two-stage. You can see we've got this different area at the top here that is more shiny reflective. Our 3 cameras. So we've got 50 megapixel main camera, optical image stabilization, 32 megapixel ultra wide, and a 2.5 times 50 megapixel zoom camera. And that has optical image stabilization as well. Flash right there. Overall, it's a nice looking phone. The camera module style, yeah, I'm starting to get used to it. I think they could have done something else with it, but hey, it's good. Kind of looks a bit retro-y and reminds me a little bit of, say, the K30 Pro Zoom, but on a larger scale there with this model. You can kind of see what I mean. Okay, they're not that similar, but we're going back to the round camera module. I wish they would make the cameras a little bit smaller like that, but of course they want it to dominate, so it looks like it's a camera flagship, a powerhouse. And the Redmi K30 Pro Zoom, still one of my favorite phones of all time. That's why I've still got it. And that, of course, is the Poco F2 Pro, basically, but this one had the zoom camera with it. Anyway, enough reminiscing there about previous Xiaomi phones. I've been a Xiaomi fan for a long time if you've followed me, and I really do like some of their phones. And this, I think, is a very solid offering from them. So we have the now Hyper OS. This is version 2 with it, based off Android 15. And I wanted to show you a couple of things here with the screen, because they give us options with our refresh rate. And do they give us 90 hertz? No, they don't. Just 60 and 120, unfortunately. Now, with software, they could add this, and it's something I mention a lot because I do use it myself personally. If I want that compromise between fluidity and then battery saving, 90 is that sweet spot. So resolution, throughout my tests, I've forced it onto the highest. So I've gone with the Quad HD Plus. Well, they call it here, it's WQHD Plus. And you can get it to switch automatically to save power. So there's some nice little settings that they have it added in there. Now we've got this, the dual core visuals. This is something new. I don't remember seeing this before. So you can turn this on to help smooth out motion, to stop it being a little bit stuttery. I hope this could be applied to their actual video with Android when recording, but no, this is only what you're looking at on the screen, and it doesn't have anything to do with video performance, unfortunately. So those are the options, pretty standard. You've got your color scheme. Now, they do claim the brightness on this to go up to 3,200 nits. Now, of course, I haven't been able to measure that. I use a Spider Pro, X Pro, sorry, and I can get around 1,200 nits with this. It is, I'll say this, a bright screen, and you can see now in direct sunlight that it fares well. In fact, my recording here, it looks worse than what it really is. It's very clear, you can make it out. And that's the main thing. So for me, in direct sunlight, very usable screen, which is good. Now the UI's performance, gestures, all working really well. And because it was de-bloated by GizTop, I think that has really helped out a little, well, performance, because we got rid of a lot of the bloatware. They do this for us. I don't know if it's something they always do. I'm pretty sure it is, and I do like it. So performance is good. I have the apps drawer enabled. Everything opens up really quick. So 12 gigabytes of RAM, 256 gigabytes of storage, and that Snapdragon 8 Elite. Very good chip. Now, there are a couple of things I wanted to point out additional that I think we should know about. That Netflix, it's not supporting the K80 Pro so far. Maybe when it becomes a Poco phone as a rebrand, it will be supported, or maybe we just need time for Netflix to update their list of supported devices. But it does have a Widevine security level 1. Amazon Prime Video is going to work in 1080p, but Netflix, you'll find other methods. There are other methods to install an APK file, but you may possibly have issues to try and get it out of standard definition in 1080p, unfortunately. Now, Camera 2 Probe, if you're not happy with Xiaomi's style of their photos, then you can install Open Camera, Gcam ports and all that. They all do work, and this is the version that I am running in this review here. So there's been an update out for it already, which is very good to see. And the bloatware, well, it's non-existent because of what GizTop has done. They've de-bloated the ROM for us, which I think is very handy. I have one minor complaint, though, from this, is I lost the standard Xiaomi Gallery app, which I particularly like, and I've had to resort to Google Photos, but never mind, that's just a minor thing. And of course, languages, well, you're only going to have English unless you need some Asian languages there too as well. Then you've got those, but it's not a global ROM. Battery life. Now, this is very good because we've got a 6,000 milliamp hour battery. Snapdragon 8 Elite is more efficient than the previous generation, and it's given us a crazy time here with this fixed test that, yes, is not realistic. What we're looking at is around about 9 hours on-screen time is possible, which is still crazy good. So the battery life on this device is impressive, just like the charge time. 120 watt hypercharging. It's very quick. 23 minutes to go from 18% to 100, and it will take around approximately 26 if you're under the 10% mark to get to 100. So very quick, great speeds. Just like Antutu. If you like your Antutu benchmarks, then this one is really quite high. So we're getting over 2.6 million points there. Very potent chip, excellent performance. And you'll see here with the wildlife stress test that it has a very good stability rating for this kind of power it has. So the performance will drop off just over 30%. Very good. Best loop and lowest loop scores. The throttling really starts to happen only after 2 minutes. Its peak performance is great, but you lose it straight away with this chipset. But it maintains it quite well. And you'll see that at the cost of it getting a bit hot, and quite hot in fact, quite toasty to the touch. 49 degrees Celsius. Now, I've not been able to measure that externally because this is the internal, I believe, battery sensor, not the chipset. Could be the chipset sensor, but I doubt it. I think this is the battery. So around the frame, what I've measured, almost up to those temperatures, I have measured 46 degrees Celsius. So it gets really hot if you push it hard, if you're going to be playing games like Genshin Impact. Now, there are other things to be aware of with the Chinese ROM. You don't have Android Auto. The haptics, okay, I have been using this a little bit now. I think they're good, but I'll say that I think the haptics with the Poco F2 Pro and this K80 Pro Zoom are still better. And this is a very old phone now. It's another reason why I've got it. Brilliant haptics. Anyway, they're okay, they're good. Now, you can, of course, use 5G with this. It is working. I'm getting it, the 5G bands here, and I haven't had too much of an issue, but I've noticed the speeds have been a little slower than expected, but not by much. And finally, voice calls do sound good on this. Wanted to mention that. After all, it's still a phone. But let's have a listen now to the loudspeakers, because we've got one at the bottom here, and the earpiece comes out of there too as well. Now, I'll be playing this at 100% volume, just to give you an idea. So you might have heard then that most of the sound is coming out of the bottom speaker. I would say it's more like 65% here and 35% from the earpiece. Now there's a bit of bass to it. Volume is good. Overall, decent speakers. I'd have to say, rating them out of 10, they get a 7.5. As expected, gaming performance with the Snapdragon 8 Elite is very good. Now, Xiaomi's got a few tools built in here, which are quite useful. Now, there's this option here where you can put it into a what's called wild boost, but this is like a turbo mode. It's going to clock it to the highest clocks for the CPU and GPU. It will push up the thermals on this, so it's going to get a little hot. As I said before, it gets up to 46 degrees Celsius internally, around about 49, 50. So it does get a little bit toasty. You have a voice changer thing, clear memory, so if there's anything running in the background, it'll clear that out to help boost up the performance. Pretty standard there. So that Snapdragon 8 Elite, it performs really well. Very, very good for gaming performance. So if you're serious about your frames per second, and you're not worried about missing out on, say, video out, which is a handy gaming option to have, is to plug this into, say, an external monitor TV. Fortunately, we can't do that, but you get this very good frame rate, as expected for the spec, the 12 gigabytes of RAM and that Snapdragon 8 Elite. Very good chip. Really pleased about the performance I'm seeing from it. Over to video performance with our Redmi K80 Pro. Now, the front-facing 20 megapixel camera in true Xiaomi fashion can only shoot 1080p, 30 or 60 frames per second. This is disappointing considering the spec of it. I know it's a very affordable Snapdragon 8 Elite flagship here, but it should be able to do 4K with the front-facing camera. As it stands, the 1080p quality is very good. Audio quality is good. Susceptible to wind, however. It's a little bit windy right now on the coast, and this is why I like to test out this area to see how those microphones are going to perform. Moving over now to the video performance and our camera samples with our Redmi K80 Pro. So the front-facing 20 megapixel camera can only shoot video in 1080p, 30 or 60 frames per second. I've noticed it has a bit of a tendency to overexpose. Normally with the Chinese ROMs, they like to whiten things up. And there is a bit of filtering going on with the audio, which is good in a way because I can be heard clearly. It's a little windy here, but as soon as I stop talking, now you can hear some of the waves in the background. Overall for 1080p quality, I think it's good. Now I'm in the sun, so it's looking a little bit better. Instead of having, the sun in front of me, now instead of having it behind me, but it's alright for 1080p, but really, this should have 4K support too. 4K 30 frames per second with our main camera here, which has optical and electronic image stabilization. You can also shoot 4K 30, 8K 24 frames per second, and I cannot shoot with the ultrawide in 4K. The ultrawide only supports, at the time of this video, 1080p. So that means I cannot swap over to the ultrawide right now, because you either have to decide to shoot with the ultrawide or the other two cameras. This is our 2.5 times optical zoom camera. So that's electronically stabilize the image, but also optically too, optical image stabilization. 5 times, so that's half and half, digital and optical zoom. I can continue to zoom, but it degrades the quality quite a lot, as you can see. That's 10 times, this is now 15 times digital zoom, back to 2 times preset, and the 2.5 times. So that's the optical zoom camera. This 2 times is the main camera, it's just cropping in, and then the 1 times. Overall, the quality is good. I just wish we had 4K with the ultra wide. I don't see why it doesn't support it. The sensor can surely do it. 32 megapixels it has. Onto our camera performance now. So I've noticed that with bright colored flowers, this is the macro mode first, and then just the main camera here, normal. It's oversaturated. You can clearly see a lot of clipping. The reds are too bright, so it struggles with bright flowers. So this is our ultra wide, 32 megapixels. It tends to be over sharpened, I've noticed. Our main camera now, so that's the 50 megapixel with the optical image stabilization, 2.5 times optical zoom camera, also with optical image stabilization. That's a good shot if you don't crop in, and then 5 times digital zoom with it, which is still looking all right. Portrait photos just straight out of the phone, straight upload to social media, do look good, but again a bit of over sharpening. This is now the 2.5 times optical. Stitching is fine, it's good. A little bit of what looks like skin smoothing, even though the beautifying is turned off, and you can see a bit of noise in the background there, and some sharpening. So they're going a little overboard, I think, with the processing here. Here are some more 2.5 times optical zoom shots. In general, I think they look good. They could do with a little bit of tweaking, like the exposure. This one of my cat Vera, a bit overexposed, a little too white. And this one here of the fireplace, the fire, doesn't look too bad, but they could tweak things like the contrast, saturation, etc. Finally, low light photos, on first glance, they look good until you crop in. Then you realize that there's a lot of noise, there's some artifacts, and it really is over-processed again and sharpened up a little too much here, as you can see with the night photos. And it tends to be the general theme with this phone, so some work is required, I think, with the photos, but overall for social media, sure, it looks good. So there's a lot to like about this Redmi K80 Pro here. The build quality is excellent, very fast, fluid. HyperOS, I think, is a step up from what we had before from Xiaomi. The optimization is very good, and it's based on Android 15. Now we have that 6.67-inch AMOLED screen, 120 Hz. It's very nice. It's bright, can be read in direct sunlight. It's all legible, which is great. And a set of cameras that I think are okay, considering and factoring in the price. They're not the best out there. They're not going to be winning any top camera comparisons. However, we are also missing that 4K on the front-facing camera. I hope that can be added by Xiaomi with some firmware updates. There's also the Type-C port, no video out, no IR transmitter, and then 3.5mm micro SD card. But you already knew those two weren't going to be here. So yes, there are some compromises. It's a Chinese ROM, so perhaps if you like this hardware but you want a global ROM, wait and see what happens with possible different ROMs that you can maybe flash to it, or wait for the Poco re-release, rebranded model of this Redmi, which is bound to be coming in early 2025. So as it stands, excellent phone from Xiaomi. Hardware definitely there. Software's looking so much better with HyperOS. I do like what I'm seeing from them. Oh, and that ultrasonic fingerprint reader. Very good, although sometimes it just doesn't want to work to start with. And it's almost like it goes into a deep sleep or something weird. But that is a simple bug fix for them. So if you want the cheapest Snapdragon 8 Elite flagship phone, this is it right here, the Redmi K80 Pro. Thanks a lot for watching this review.